Alrighty. Excuse the stuff to the right of me. I found a use for the Stella Artois box. I found a use for Stella because you gotta remember, Stella is an Anheuser-Busch brand. And so it can be really important for us to find a use for the, products or remnants of this brand that we will no longer be buying in this household. Now, of course, my camera's a little maladjusted. You see, the other day I was streaming with some puppets and, kind of knocked my camera out of its proper angle. I think it's like, oh, hey, buddy. Hey, look who's coming out. Look who's coming out to play. Oh, are we streaming? Okay, good. We're streaming. Let's record. But yeah, that's my friend Paffie. As I said, we have found a use for the Stella Artois box. And that use is to give my buddy Paffie, this is Paffie the turtle, a place to kind of like hang out to be safe. Because, if you try to carry Paffie around this house or anywhere and you're not ready for it, Paffie will definitely, give you like some challenge. Like Paffie will some dust on my microphone. I got a dust. Anyway, Paffie will try to climb out. She'll, definitely she's a feisty one, as you can see. Look at her. She's trying to climb out over here now on the right side. Do I have to adjust my lighting a little bit? Let's see here. Go into manual mode. Maybe crank down the exposure a little bit. See, I'm trying to avoid like yeah, anyway, not a big deal. I'm getting a little OCD here with the lighting settings. Let's see, let's get the chat window up. Let's see, chat. There we go. We got Whooper Trooper here. Hey, buddy. Good to see you. I hope your siblings are doing well today. Yeah, so the reason that the image is blocked over here is because you can see the little sunlight hitting the green screen. And so what I did was I figured out that if you just put the background image into the foreground or in a frontal layer in OBS, you can block those imperfections out. But of course, it means I can't do what Melanie Mac does. When Melanie Mac speaks, she's very expressive with her hands, sort of like an Italian, but more. And so, yeah, I can't do that. But that's why Paffie is, you okay, honey? Okay, I got you. I'm going to take you out, okay? I'm going to take you out of the box. I'm not going to take Paffie out. She's not a Cuban, she's not a dictator. I'm not going to take her out like some weird dictator, when like the CIA or maybe some less benevolent, maybe a more benevolent agency is all like, we need to take this bad guy out, And so anyway, this is my friend Paffie, and she's a female red-eared slider. They call her a red-eared slider because she has red ears, although I would beg to differ. I'd say her ears are more like a shade of orange. You decide. I don't know. I see orange more than I see red. And, they're looking kind of red now. I think as they get older, they start pushing into their teenagerhood, they start to get, more red. But I'll tell you, when she was young, man, unless I'm colorblind, it was orange. And this is sort of like the age-old argument for anybody who has observed the Golden Gate Bridge, in which, they say it's orange number 27. I forget. It's actually got a very specific number. Let me see. I'll ask. Oh, whoops. Hey, Google, what color is the Golden Gate Bridge?
International orange.
International orange.
They say the Golden Gate Bridge is painted Golden Gate Bridge International Orange, which was selected by consulting architect Irving F.
So a guy named Irving F. selected the color International Orange. Now, I think that's also the color you use for, like, safety, maybe? But I tell you, it looks a lot more red than it looks orange, And so if you ask someone who doesn't know any better, they'll usually say it's red. And there's nothing wrong with that. I've even had arguments, not really arguments, like in third grade, a girl was like insistent it was red, but I was like, it says it's orange in this book, but I don't blame her for thinking it was red. It looks red. But yeah, so anyway, you might notice that Paffie here has some cracked skin on top of her head, and that is because, I I don't know why. I mean, I think it's the UV light. You know, the skin gets dry. When I used to have her really close to her UV light many years ago, I used to have this problem where there would always be like a patch of white skin on the top of her head. And it was like a big patch of white skin too, you know. Now, I still think I can improve on this. So I do have a bottle or a can. I think it's in the bathroom right now. Yeah, so apparently I'm sharing ointment with my turtles. That's really healthy. And so anyway, I think I have a bottle of, whoa, she's very feisty. I think I have a can of Bag Balm. And Bag Balm is basically like petroleum jelly for livestock. And so I could put that on. It's not, I don't know if it's got an SPF rating, but Bag Balm is good stuff. Like, I mean, if you need it, let's say you need something that like is a little more water resistant or something like that, even for humans, or you want like something that's a step up from petroleum jelly. And stuff is pretty economical too. I mean, it's used by farmers. Oh, and this is great. I can actually go over my paint. I can also go over my paint mixer idea. I didn't really invent anything, but I found a novel solution for mixing these paints here. So yeah, Paffie, she's not as docile as the others. You know, like Squirtle is bigger, but she's a little bit easier going. Paffie, I'm not even trying to hold her right now because like she'll scratch me. Like, the only way I can hold Paffie is by going like all restaurant guy on her. You know, by restaurant guy, I mean like I can hold her up like this in the center of her shell, and that's like the only way. And I don't know if she likes it. I kind of doubt she enjoys this, but this is how I hold Paffie up when I need to. So, you know, we're gonna just crank up the brightness a little bit. Oh, wait. Oh, she's blending in. The chroma key, she's kind of blending in with the chroma key a little bit. Yeah, that sometimes happens, I guess, right? But you know, she's a good girl. So why do I have her here? Well, I just wanted to spend some time showing you guys my turtle. Anybody who tunes in, you know, just let you guys see and experience this. See and experience my friend Paffie. And she's actually my first turtle. I adopted her many years ago, I guess in like maybe mid 2015, maybe early to mid 2015, I guess. And so I've had her for about 7 years, and I'd say she's about 5 or 7 years old at that point. So she's about pushing into teenager years by now, right? You know, I mean, let's see here, 10 plus these 3, she's about 13, 14. She's about 14 years old right now. Her and her sister Squirtle about 14, 15, 16 years old. You know, Squirtle was 17 when I got 7 years old when I got her, and she's larger for 2 reasons. But Paffie, on the other hand, is just large because, well, I mean, you know, she's got age by now. Squirtle is larger because she had like a high protein diet early. See, look how feisty she's. Like, I hold her like this, and she's like finding where to kick my wrist. She's like, oh, is there like a wrist over here? Okay, I'll kick off of that. You know, she's like, let me see if I get a wider angle here. Is this as high as this camera will go without showcasing how messy my room is? There we go. Okay, that should do good here. So yeah, like I hold Paffie up like this. If I put my hand here, you can see how she takes her hind flipper and kind of just like kicks off, almost like she thinks she's swimming in space, like in the. She probably has pretty decent spatial awareness because, you know, I mean, she's underwater. She's got to have 3-dimensional spatial awareness, but she's not the smartest tool in the shed, right? The sharpest tool in the shed, I should say. Although maybe someday we will have smart tools where we can actually say this is not the smartest tool in the shed. But the thing is, like, you put this girl, like her and her sister both. Her sister seems to be a little worse about it, but not. I mean, they're pretty bad, both of them. Like, you put this girl in a room where you got stairs. In this house, you know, you got stairs. Like, you come into the entryway. You got a dining room. You got a doorway going into a kitchen. And then you got a flight of stairs. Wooden stairs. So you got carpet leading to wooden steps to a room with basically a cement floor. Well, it's like, you know, asbestos tile, but same thing. And, of course, the turtle was saying, oh, hey, I see an edge over here. So the turtle was thinking, great, an edge, just like the edge of this box. You know, like, turtles walking, they're like, oh, there's an edge over here. And it's like, I think it's like, it's instinctual at this point, because in nature, they are on land, and typically they come out of water, right? So turtle comes out of the water, which would be like the edge of my desk. And they go and they're hanging out. They're getting some sunlight. Maybe they're climbing up onto a log, you know, to get some UV rays. They're exothermic, meaning they're cold-blooded, so they use the environment to warm up their body. And, you know, they need that heat in order to digest their food. That's, you know, we got our own heat. They need the environmental heat. They need to absorb heat to digest food. And so she does that. Paffie does that. Her ilk, they all do that, right? And, well, while they're on land, maybe a raccoon tries to eat them, right? A predator. A bird tries to swoop down. The bird's like, I'm going to get you. I'm going to peck your eyes out, little turtle. You know, I mean, depending on the size of the bird might be like, I'm going to go and, you know, get you through your arm sockets, right? That's pretty much how like a animal with a nice big beak would go and eat a turtle. They, you know, it's just like eating a walnut with a really hard shell. You're going to get at whatever you can, right? You can just peck at it, eat it, whatever. Anyway, very morbid. But my point is that Paffie would seek refuge by jumping into the water. And that's how all turtles deal, you know? So they're on land. They have to go on land. They have to climb up onto some kind of dry patch of log in order to dry off, absorb heat, get some UV light. They may not know what they're doing, but they know that they like being warm. They've evolved the senses. Their senses have, you know, led them to basically figure out as much as that. They've, you know, through selective natural selection, they're at a point now where they know that when they're cold, they can climb up. If it's a sunny day, they feel warm, it feels good. And if something scares them, and they can sometimes be easily startled, their only recourse is to be able to have access to the water, to jump in really quickly. And generally speaking, a bird is a flying creature. And if this girl goes like 3 feet underwater, that bird is probably not going to get at them anymore, you know? Same thing with raccoons, you know, like they may swim on the surface, but they're not divers. So, you know, once, you know, the turtle is back in the water, they are not in the raccoon's domain. They are not in the rodent's domain anymore. But as long as they're on land, a large rodent that can catch them, well, they're in the domain of land creatures. So generally speaking, a lake luckily is surrounded by land, so they can jump in easily. A log that they're basking on is already a very precarious place, and it's sort of like a F-16. F-16 fighter, what is it? Falcons. You know, F-16 Falcon is a fighter jet. Is an inherently unstable design, and that's okay because like they have the computer to keep it flying straight. You know, like it's automatic more or less, but the pilot can leverage that instability so that they can turn on a dime. Just like how a turtle on a log can leverage the instability of balancing in a very awkward position to just kick with their flipper with minimal effort, and they'll immediately slide back into the water where they are safe. And so if so much as something startles them by trying to, you know, an eagle tries to grab them and it just doesn't grab them correctly, by then the turtle already fell into the water, you know? So this brings us back to the original point. You let this turtle walk around your house. You got a flight of stairs. The turtle will essentially think, from what I can figure, a turtle would jump off a cliff because, like, they don't usually live on mountains. At least this species doesn't live in a mountain. So when it sees a cliff, it's thinking, hey, there's water underneath that cliff where I can be safe, or something like that. And look, they're walking around the house, they're uncomfortable, they're saying, hey, you know, I want to go back to my tank. So yeah, I've seen these turtles go down the steps, and sometimes they get lucky. Like Paffie will go down the steps, and you hear like the noise of them going down one step. You hear from the carpet to the wood, you hear punk, and I'll go running and I'll be like, oh my God. And I see the turtle like on a wooden step, and I'll be like, well, thank God you didn't go down any further. I've had other instances where like I'm like letting the turtle walk around while I'm doing tank maintenance, and I hear the knocking sound of the turtle, and before I know it, it's too late. The turtle is going down over the side of its shell, like, you know, pinwheeling down the steps like a football, rolling end to end. And I remember one time I screamed bloody massacre. I screamed bloody murder, like I thought it was over. And I was really concerned about, you know, not so much the shell cracking, as much as you know, like them breaking a bone. You know, I don't want them being nope. Okay, don't click on anything, please. Can you please like not operate the computer? She's looking at me right now. Oh, yeah. Let me. Okay, you want to walk around on the floor for a little while? I'll let you walk around on the floor. I'll come get you in a couple minutes. All right? Not even a couple of seconds. Oh yeah. Well, one more important thing though. You know, when you let the turtle go down the steps, which, you know, like I said, you don't want them going down the steps. But when they go down a flight of steps, because, you know, maybe they're only doing one step. Maybe they don't fly down the whole flight of steps. Maybe they go one plunk, two plunk, you know, just one step at a time. One step at a time. Even then, what tends to happen with my friend Paffie is her head will hit, like, her chin will hit something. And it'll push her head up. And it'll force her head into the front of her shell. And essentially, it's almost like a blade over here. Like, it's not that sharp now, but still, you get this bumping into the skin on top of the head. And you get like you can see how like it can dig in up here and give her like a little bit of a boo-boo. And it does. Like, she'll get like a little scab. That's why I learned about bag balm. And so when she got like a little wound on top of her head from jumping down the steps like that, I'd put the ointment on top of her head. It would help to, you know, basically keep it moist. Promote healing, has some antibiotic properties. Hey, what's up, Gap After Dark? It's good to see you today. So, you know, that's some of the stuff that we would do after. But that's the thing. Even going down one step is enough to, you know, give him a little injury on top. So you have some maybe scarring up here from previous incidents. Turtle escapes from my tank, right? She jumped out of the tank numerous times, and I've continually improved the security. And same thing, she jumps out of the tank, she bops her chin, it makes her head hit into the front of her shell. In fact, there was like on her stepsister, there's a patch of shell that was very sharp. Like, I was amazed. Like, I was putting my hand over it and I was like, oh my god, it's almost razor sharp. And I thought about going at it with like a file, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to file down her shell. But Squirtle did get like a chip off the edge of the shell. There's actually like a little missing chip from the outer layer. And so this material, I actually have a piece of the little segments are called scoots. These little hexagonal or, you know, square shapes here are called scoots. And they actually shed off individually as separate segments. And sometimes you'll have like a piece this big or, you know, the size of each respective scoot. And it almost resembles, in fact, it is basically the same keratin protein-like material or protein-based material that you find in a fingernail. The tank, to answer your question, Gap After Dark, who is asking, how big is your tank? I'm not using chat overlays right now. I would love to, but I forgot to turn it on. And actually, wait, do I have chat overlays? Maybe I should do that. Let's try it out. Because, you know, we like to have those little questions on screen, right? Why not? It could be fun. So let's see. Here, we're going to try it out. You're going to do boom, boom, and let's see what happens here. Oh, oh yeah, there we go. Good. Whoops, that's a sample user. And, you know, we had, you know, beginning of the stream, we had Whooper saying, you know, we await the turtle, and it was great. I have a recording, I think, of this turtle climbing out of this box, which was really cool. Before the stream started, I had the turtle falling out of the box. The box actually fell down and got wedged between the wall. So anyway, and of course, we got Whooper here greeting the comrade turtle. Hey, did Jake D come back from vacation yet? You know, am I still responsible as the general, you know, temporary acting general? Anyway, to answer your question, I have a tank that is 150-gallon stock tank. Rubbermaid actually produces these tanks called stock tanks, and you know, they come in different forms. They have like companies that make aluminum tanks. In this case, it's sort of like a livestock trough, sort of like the water thing that the horses drink from in those movies, where they have like a little wooden like tank in front of the saloon, and you tie up your horse and they drink water. In this case, a stock tank is a larger, is a like, you know, pretty much like almost like an oblong tank, yeah. And they got different sizes. They got like 50-gallon, which are pretty shallow and smaller, 100-gallon, I think, or 75-gallon, and then of course I have the 150. I think they make a size bigger, but essentially it's made out of a thing. I think it's called expanding foam or something like that. It's got a weird structural foam, and really it's plastic. I think structural foam is because when they're, you know, making it, it's like a type of foam that flows out of a nozzle. You can put it into a mold, and then once it hardens, you can have a smooth surface on it. But if you break it, you'll notice that it does have like internal like foam-like structure, a porous structure to it. And when mine was delivered from, I think I ordered it from like a Walmart company. It was like some weird website. They had like, it was like $100 cheaper than the normal price, and it was like a jet.com, which I thought was a scam, you know, but it's a legitimate company. But I suspect they maybe like sell to overstock products that Walmart can't sell, or maybe they ship things from the warehouse that are slightly defective, because this tank had like a little like chunk missing from the bottom, but it wasn't enough to like compromise the structural integrity. So yeah, 150-gallon tank, and that's because turtles, you generally are told you need like a 75-gallon tank for each red-eared slide. At least anybody giving good advice on these creatures recommends at least a 75-gallon tank per turtle. And that's because, you know, when they're young and cute, sure, they may not need 75 gallons, but yo, you wait till they get bigger. Squirtle is bigger than this. It scares the shit out of me how big that they can get. Apparently, legend has it. I mean, she's already approaching the size of a dinner plate, but apparently some of these guys, they will get bigger. You look up videos and you'll see like a veterinarian, and they'll be like, and look at this big mother effer. And it's like a big mother effer, like it looks like a freaking dragon. So anyway, I'm going to let her walk around on the floor, give it a false sense of freedom, just like our political systems. Right, don't get hurt, and don't eat the flux. I had this on the floor. I don't want to eating the flux. You might say, looks like amber. I think I have me some amber, yeah. Nah, I don't know what that tastes like, and I don't want to know. So let's see what else everyone has to say. And I'm glad to see Mr. Sean Estep here, who is greeting both our friends of the channel, Mr. Gap After Dark and Whooper Trooper. And, you know, we should say to the turtle. Okay, so he's still exploring. Oh, yeah, that's what he was doing. He was exploring Hyrule, yeah. That's cool. I started exploring Hyrule, but I'm very casual. I played my first, like, hour yesterday, first maybe 2 hours, but before dinner, I did, like, a half-hour recording, because after seeing everyone else play Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, I was a little worried that, you know, that, whatchamacallit, that, like, I wouldn't be able to document the beginning. What I mean is, like, okay, so you start the game off, you got, like, 10 hearts, you got a shit ton of stamina, you're on top of the world, and then freaking Zelda, she's all like, hey, let's explore this basement over here, and it's like, okay, this is all cool until you get to a certain point in this basement where, under the castle, where you got red energy coming out of the ground, and I'm like, this looks really sketchy. So I go to turn around, and Zelda's like, oh, we can look at the paintings on the way out. So I'm like, great, now Zelda isn't letting me leave. Now she's all like, we gotta keep exploring this freaking basement here. So we get to a point in this basement where there's blue energy coming out of some shit. Looks like the medical serpent logo, but more insidious, you know, dangerous looking. You know, it's just dangerous looking. And I'm thinking to myself, we should probably get reinforcements. We should probably get some, like, a team of soldiers in here or something, you know? Maybe get a wizard, find a magician to, like, help us with this. And Zelda's all like, no, let's go check it out. I'm like, this is not going to work out. And, of course, I don't get to talk back to her. I can only select prompts of text. And, yo, Bone, it's good to see you, too. And greetings to Bone. Usually Bone is always there, often there when I'm tuning into Eric O'Sullivan's, you know, YouTube show. Eric O'Sullivan, gotta give that man props. He's, like, consistent every single day. Every single day. Like, 3 o'clock into the afternoon, this man is talking about comic books. Like, I don't even, like, I'm not even into comic books, and I like watching this guy. He's funny. But also, I do like what he talks about preservation, putting things into the long boxes, short boxes. I'd probably get some short boxes so they're a little bit more manageable, lighter weight. But, you know, putting them into those slip covers. And I want to say hi to Maze, Marvel, Mario, Metroid, and Mafia Mega Man. I love Mafia Mega Man. I just like that name. I'm picturing, like, literally like an old Chicago, maybe New York, 1930s, 40s Mafia guy with the funny hat, little fedora looking thing, you know, a tuxedo or something like that, but with Mega Man helmet under it, or perhaps Mega Man holding a cigar and a Tommy gun. Yeah, you know, that's what I'm picturing when I hear Mafia Mega Man. I mean, I'm sure the mob would have loved hiring him. I mean, God, in The Godfather, if Sonny had, hey, the text isn't appearing on screen anymore. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Let's get that text back on the screen. That's not the text on the screen. Is that how we do it? I think that's how we do it. gonna fix the text on the screen right now. Look at that. I tried grabbing my keyboard out of muscle memory. So yeah, I want to say hi to my friend Mafia Mega Man. And I don't know why YouTube is opening up this little menu. There we go. So as I was saying, yeah, shout out to this man here. He does a lot of gaming streams. He's been on fire with the Mafia, with the Mega Man, not Mafia, with playing Mega Man lately. And you know, it brings me back. I only owned Mega Man 2 for the NES, which I have an NES sitting on top of the old aquarium right there. But it was a fun game, and I wanted to revisit it. I the other day I'm at work, and I'm like, I wish I packed my Game Boy Micro. I got like a Game Boy Micro with a shit ton of NES games on it, and yeah, I mean, just brings me back watching that. So I'm not drinking beer right now because we don't drink Anheuser-Busch brands. Now, originally I was kind of like, you know, saying to someone, my pops was saying, oh, you know, Stella is Anheuser-Busch. I'm like, look, man, I don't have time to boycott every freaking beer brand. Like, you know, I got no time for that shit. I like Stella. But then it's like, you know what? These boycotts don't work unless you do extend it to their other brands. It's like, then I'm subsidizing Bud Light by drinking, you know, Stella. So it's like, screw it. You know, Stella serves one purpose right now, and it's to give me a box to put my turtle in. See, I got a little blue, ew, it's wet, turtle water. So that's what the box is for. I'm not here to drink. I'm here to carry a turtle in a box because Paffie... Hey, Paffie, can I pick you up again, honey? I'll put you back, I promise. Paffie here is a feisty one. Paffie here likes to get, you know, like feisty. Right now, she's not scratching me, but that's what Paffie does. But let's see. Let's run through this chat real quick because I'm seeing a lot of good faces here, you know, and I'm glad everyone's saying hi to my friend and other friends and friends that saying hi to friends. This is great, man. It's good to have friends. Londo Malari said that on Babylon 5. He goes, it's good to have friends. But it was a very sad episode. It made me want to cry. I didn't cry, but it was sad. Like, he was waiting for Garibaldi to meet up with him in the bar. But Garibaldi couldn't meet him in the bar because some sketchy shit was going on. Do they get lonely and bored? Well, she got a tank mate. And you know what happened when you got a tank mate? Well, they engaged in stunts, okay? Like, this girl here gets bitten in the tail by her stepsister. It's sad because her tail was sticking out before. I should have shown you the tail before. Now she's got it curled up in walking mode. When she's in swimming mode, she sticks it out. When she's in walking mode, she sort of curls it up to the back like that, tucks it in. And, you know, at the base of the tail, you got a cloaca where she poops, pees, and lays eggs. And the tip of the tail was getting bitten, which wasn't a big deal. But one day I was seeing like, I might have to put some ointment on the tail. I don't know how she got that bruised up. But, yeah, she was like, you know, basically like, you know, like scared of her stepsister. Turned out her stepsister was biting her in the tail, especially during meal times. Things get a little dicey. So I built a wall, you know, build the wall. You know, I put a wall, a divider, a partition in the middle of the tank to keep them from, you know, fighting. Because I can't come home from work to a massacre. You know, I was lucky to catch it when I did. And, you know, so they don't get bored because they keep each other busy biting each other, apparently. And then when I built the wall, Paffie, for a while, after a couple of months, Paffie must have forgotten that her stepsister was biting her, because then Paffie was climbing over the wall, which is why I went from, do they get lonely and bored, to does she work as a stunt turtle? Because yeah, she kind of does. Like, I don't know if I can find a video, but when I used to have a netbook, a mini laptop hooked up to the tank for video, or hooked up to a webcam near the tank, she was climbing over that wall, which is very precarious, and belly flopping into the other side of the tank, and nothing bad happened. Like, she'd just be hanging out with Squirtle. Like, they both look happy as clams, like two, you know, old Jewish women on Brighton Beach. This is the thing, you go to Brighton Beach in Brooklyn, and, you know, back in my dad's day, you have, like, you know, these kind of fat women laying around on the beach. He said they look kind of like turtles, and that they don't have to be Jewish, they could be Italian. But, you know, people who live near Brighton Beach, laying on the beach like turtles, as it's phrased. But that's like what these guys do. They bask in the sun, they get some tans, they collect heat. So let's see, let's run through the chat and see who else we got, what else we got going on here. And Squirtle is in the other room. Squirtle, I did a video with her recently. I think there is a video of me hanging out with Squirtle, and I went over her shell development. I took great pride in the fact that if you look at the bottom of Squirtle's shell, when I first adopted Squirtle, I have these high-resolution pictures on Reddit where, like, the lines between here were kind of like, they look like there was gaps in these lines. There was some pitting, there was these little holes in the lines, and now all of those gaps have closed up. Those little holes I saw that were like shallow holes also closed up, And so I was taking pride in that. And then I look at Squirtle's shell a day later, and I see like a little chip missing in this, outer layer, which luckily, it's like a layer of stuff that resembles a fingernail. And then bones. Speaking of bone, right? Just like the name of our friend, except he's, got a cat instead of an actual bone, right? And so basically, yeah, you had like bone material. You do have bone material under it, and you can see it sometimes. If, it's not the end of the world if it's exposed. It's not ideal. It'll fill in, but recurring injury will always make that take longer. So yeah, I use the box for Anheuser-Busch products, but I'm not gonna be buying more Anheuser-Busch anytime soon. Sorry, Paffie. Thank you for look at what she does. She nicked me up over here. Great. I'm probably gonna get a wart. I'm kidding. You always wash your wounds from turtles because I one time did get a wart, and I think that's when the tank was really dirty. Now the tank is well balanced. We got good biological balance in the tank, so I haven't had thank God, because warts are a pain in the ass. You gotta manage them. You gotta cut them off. You gotta excise them. You gotta cauterize them. There's different ways of dealing with them. But I had one wart on my pinky a long time ago, and I did buy the stuff in the supermarket, at Walgreens or whatever, the salicylic acid or whatever the heck it was. But in the end, the best stuff was just to get a scalpel. I actually have a scalpel here too. Yeah, I should probably cover this up. I use that for model kits, but that's a medical scalpel. It's a disposable type, but that's what I used. So getting back on topic here. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they are, so, I'll double check, fact check. Let's see, I could probably fact check the box. International paper. It's made by International Paper. I'm kidding, that's the box. Brewed in the USA, St. Louis, please recycle. Okay, so sometimes a big thing about Memphis, no, it's the cardboard company again. It's really hard to check right now. But don't take my word for it. Oh God, no, don't operate the computer. So, but sometimes I find companies are hard to figure out. I remember someone told me the car company Saturn. Does Saturn even exist anymore? Was owned by, or they had their cars built by General Motors, but the dealership guy would tell you they don't. But apparently there was some relationship there. Maybe it's more a parts vendor thing. Yeah, there's definitely going to be a lot of turtles by any pond. They are fun to watch. They're cute, they're funny, they look cool, they look smarter than fish. I should do a turtle cam. I've been told that before, and like I said, I used to have a little mini laptop, but I didn't want to maintain a little netbook. One problem I had was when I had the mini laptop hooked up, this is when I first learned that it's hard to hook up more than 2 webcams to USB 2.0, and I think that applies to USB 3.0 as well, especially when you start pushing high resolutions and high frame rate. But essentially, if a camera can do 60 frames a second at, a high resolution, I want to operate it there. Now, to be fair, I probably wouldn't mind settling for 720p. But even with this computer, this is the maximum number of cameras you can hook up to this USB hub. And, even if you have separate USB hubs, it seems that the computer, the hardware doesn't like having more than 2 cameras running at full resolution at full frame rate. Now, one solution would be for me to add an extra USB host controller, a PCIe card to the motherboard, put it in a slot that is on the motherboard, and then it would become its own set of USB ports. That might get around that limitation. And so that's one area where desktops are very useful compared to laptops, is when you actually want to do that. Another method people would do is they'll get an HDMI source selected at called an ATEM, ATEM. And it's a little different. It's not really a source select. It's got more advanced features, but there's ways it'll basically combine the video. It's sort of like OBS, but a piece of hardware that will do what OBS does. And let's see, it's very weird. Very weird. When I click on these chat here, every time I click on something, it opens up this stupid menu on the right side here. But whatever, we can live with that. So getting back, whoops, that's the wrong angle. Let's see here. We're going to try to scroll down. If that menu would go away. Yep. So, okay. So maybe that. So there we go. Anheuser-Busch has a lot of brands, and Whooper Trooper used to ship a lot of them. And we need to expand the size of this window. Just like how Whoopsticker needs to expand its land in order to have more breathing room, right? You know, like they say, breathing room was it? They used it on Babylon 5 as well as the Nazis in World War II. They would like they had some parallels there that were kind of fun. But let's see, wrong one. Where's the main camera? Boom. All right. So I think I got caught up with the past chat, which is good. Yeah, true. We need to expand the world, you know, for the wise people of the world. Okay. Hey, I'm trying to operate the computer there, buddy. Just chill out. Hey, if anyone wants to see my Babylon 5 cards, let me know. And if you want me to open a pack of Stargate cards, I may save that for another stream. But I have one pack left over here. I got some Babylon 5 cards, right? You know, these actually probably don't even belong inside a thing. But here we are. We got Michael O'Hare. We got Captain. Whoa. Commander Sinclair. We got a PCM CIA card. That's from old laptops. Right, buddy? Watch out. Oh, whoa. You get a little feisty there, honey. It's okay. So, yeah, 150-gallon tank. They share it down the middle. So, basically, each of them have 75 gallons at their disposal. And, there we go. You don't have a Switch, that's okay. You could get a Wii U. No, I'm kidding. Wii U apparently could still play Zelda Breath of the Wild, but I don't think they released Tears of the Kingdom for Wii U, which is understandable. Basically, the Wii U would run Zelda at 720p on a modern TV, and then, like, if you had a Switch on a 1080p television, it would run at 900p. So even then, it doesn't run at 1080p, but once the Nintendo is set to 1080p, that game will run at 900 lines of vertical, or not, you know, essentially vertical pixels are 900 pixels by whatever, you know, wide. But it's a good game. And thank you, Chad, and I appreciate that. She's all right, except when she does dumb stuff like climbs over the wall to hang out with her stepsister, who previously was the aggressor. So the one who is being bullied by the aggressor is the one who, you know, is kind of coming to get more, you know? Yes, so that's interesting, but it also tells me, like, okay, well, I got a Wii U, I had it modded, I modded it myself at some point. I don't know to what extent, I don't remember how much I modded it and what it can actually run. I mean, it's not really a point, right? It's like most of my bootleg Wii games, or even games I own, run on an external hard drive attached to my Wii. I have, like, actually I got a stack of Wiis because I collected them from the e-waste recycling heap. Every time someone threw out a Wii, I took it home, gave one to a friend. He modded it really thoroughly. Then he added some stuff. He gave me some info that I added to my modified Wii so that I can make my mod even better than it was. And it was a lot like having a modded Xbox. And considering a modded OG Xbox can't run Wii games, it's nice to you know, have that option for Nintendo Wii and Xbox separately. Both of them can run, you know, old console games like NES and Super Nintendo, but a Wii is definitely slightly newer, so it's going to have certain advantages in that area. I don't recall if it did PlayStation 1 games well or not. N64 probably had some potential there, but I tend not to emulate N64. I tend to just have the physical hardware. I actually opted to install an HDMI port on it, although N64 emulation has gotten better, but my point about this is very important to me. So, you know, I didn't want anything to do with modifying my Nintendo Switch. I was like, I'm gonna go legit, I'll pay for my games and, you know, get a quality experience. But people would argue digital or physical cartridges, and well, I went both ways. I bought Metroid on a cartridge, but then while waiting for Metroid to come out, because I bought the Switch a week before Metroid, because Metroid was coming out, I bought it for Metroid Dread. And so while waiting for the game to come out, I wanted to play a game that day. You know, I'm sitting in front of my Nintendo. I want to play a game right now. So I was like, screw it. I'll get the digital download. I'll buy Zelda. And it was a good game. I ended up playing it more than Metroid. Part of it is because Metroid is a side scroller. The other part is it's a tough game. Certain parts you need to take a break sometimes. Like in Metroid in general, I do better when I take a break and I come back to it. I regroup. And, you know, I just sometimes I'll tune into Nerdpovial Lifeforms videos just to see, like, you know, how to beat a boss, basically. I'll be like, okay, let's see how he beat this boss. In fact, I should probably look at the numbers, make some notes on the chapters, so to speak, because it would be nice to know, like, you know, in video number 4 at 20 minutes and 10 seconds, this guy fought, you know, Ridley, and at 40 minutes and 5 seconds he fought Kraid. So like, you know, maybe put more, someone could put chapter markers there, but like I just kind of skim through other people's videos in general. So if one video doesn't have the info I need, okay, I'll go around. But because Nerd Poor Real Life Form, I believe he may have beaten the whole game on YouTube. Not sure, but he went through a big chunk of the game on YouTube. So, you know, that's like my resource. But I just get, you know, you're in this dark place and you get, at some points, I just get stuck. I got stuck in Metroid Dread at some point, you know, like I eliminated the Emmys. The Emmys are those evil side robots, those crazy evil robots with the backs that bend and curve. So anyway, cartridge versus digital download. And my thing was like, well, even though a digital download, you know, like, you got certain risks when you have to repurchase the game or something like that. My attitude is like, you still got to update the games. The updates don't go on to the, oh yeah, that's a good game. You still got to put the games onto the Nintendo. So it's like if you Nintendo, you know, let's say I got a new Nintendo and updates are no longer available because Nintendo is no longer issuing updates, then yeah, the cartridge game will still work. That is a good advantage right there. But, and hopefully Nintendo is better at quality control than other companies, so that the baseline cartridge is a solid player. But at some point, it is relying on data stored on the memory, internal, or SD card. So my plan with my Nintendo Switch is simple. Not super simple, but my plan is to back up my SD cards. That's like number one. Just back up my SD cards so that like I can, you know, essentially because SD cards do go bad. SD cards have no moving parts in them, but they do go bad. Like it's just like the more you write data to an SD card, it's varied. Problem is that to answer your question, let's get the, definitely gotta do this differently. But anyway, there we go. Problem with SD cards is that you get 10 of them, you don't really have any way of knowing, you know, if the SD cards are identically tested or whatever. So flash drives are more of a problem in that regard. SD cards might have better quality control, but when it comes to flash drives, you grab like 20 flash drives of the same brand, same, you know, whatever model, supposedly, you crack them open and you look at the chip, and the chip might not always be the same. And even if it is, there's just certain things about the way you mass produce silicon, sort of like LEDs. Like, you know, you want to buy like a LED array to grow plants, and you know, each LED that says it's of a certain spectrum isn't guaranteed to put out that spectrum of lighting. So when I put 100 LEDs into a grid, you're gonna see like, oh, this LED is a little bit off color, this LED is brighter, this LED is, you know, a different tint, this LED is putting different wavelengths out. And it's like, well, if I need them all to put out quality blue light and quality red light and UV for plants, then the best way is to if you buy the LEDs yourself, you have to like test them individually. So the best way is to buy a pre-made LED array that guarantees that the, you know, LEDs are already selected properly. And that's going to cost you a little more than buying the LEDs. But in the end of the day, you buy 1,000 LEDs, that's still going to cost you a pretty penny to figure out which ones are good and bad, because you got to buy a $3,000 meter to properly test those LEDs. Basically, a $3,000 measuring device to test those LEDs. So now when it comes to flash drives, we don't even have that luxury, right? We can't really test the chips. So thing about a flash drive is, okay, hard drives. Let's talk about hard drives. You put data on a magnetic hard drive, assuming no mechanical failure, the data will stay there pretty much indefinitely. You put a flash drive in a drawer, you plug it back in, assuming mechanical failure doesn't happen, the data is still there. You put a flash drive in a drawer, you come back to it 3 years from now, 2 years from now, it may or may not have the data on it. It may miraculously not have the data on it. You know, just it's very finicky in that regard. So anybody who, you know, relies solely on a flash drive, just because that flash drive has served you well for years, especially if you have a flash drive that's been working for you for like 10 years, that's all the more reason. If that's the only place that you have certain data stored, I would definitely encourage you, implore you to like at least copy that data to another flash drive. If that's how you're going to do it, at least copy it to another flash drive. If you don't trust the cloud, copying it to another hard drive, copying it to a conventional hard drive is good. Ideally, like if I had one of those MacBooks that had a low capacity SSD, I would have whatever stored on the internal hard drive would always be stored on an external drive. If I ran out of capacity on my MacBook, let's say I had a MacBook, I would have 2 external hard drives. I would always have the same data on 2, but you should at least have the data on 2 devices at any given time. I mean, there's actually a rule of 3s, but I'm not going to get into that. Bottom line, how long does an SD card last? It varies. Assume that it won't last you forever, and you'll be fine. Nintendo, at least you can update that. You can always get the updates back. Your save data is always being synced, so it's less of an issue. The problem is, when Nintendo stops issuing updates, that's the point where you're going to want to get OCD about backing up your SD cards. Now, each time, the SD card is going to be good for one Nintendo Switch, one console, right? So what do you do if you want to put it in another console? Well, essentially, yeah, as long as Nintendo is still issuing updates, you can sign into Nintendo.com. You can transfer ownership from one device to another. And you can, keep it going. But once Nintendo sets a date, they're saying, hey, we're not going to issue updates after 2027 January, let's say. That's the point where I mod my Nintendo Switch, because at least with a modded Nintendo Switch, then the data on SD cards will no longer be bound by those rules. And I'll take my legitimately purchased games and ensure that they are stored in such a way that, they are not bound to one device or another. Like, I'll have them stored on my server, on my hard drive, on something else. That's really important to me, so I can keep the device running. But I don't mind being part of the Nintendo ecosystem right now. Maybe if I decide to waste money at some point, I'll buy a second Nintendo Switch. Maybe I'll get the OLED model and I'll mod the one I currently have before that day comes, just so that I kind of have a mature understanding of a modded Nintendo. But it's I don't see any other option. I don't want to mod my Nintendo Switch, but I don't see an option in the long term. And so once it's modded, it'll be much easier, because then if I have backed up data from the SD cards and backed up data from the internal memory, I know I can move that between different consoles. Whereas right now, I'm dependent on, the Nintendo website to assist me in that. It's not difficult. It's actually not that big of a hassle. If the machine gets stolen, yeah, I could deauthorize it. It's not, everything is fine right now. Just long run, yeah, that's the long game there. Right now, if the SD card gets corrupted, it's not a big deal. It's a minor inconvenience. I still want to get a second SD card and duplicate the current one to that SD card as an emergency backup, but even then, it's an extra step. It's periodically I'd have to take the SD card out and clone it. I don't know what would happen if I cloned my current SD card. Even if both SD cards work in my Switch, what happens if I don't clone it for a month, 2 months, 3 months? Will that 3 months out of date SD card be valid? Will it automatically update with the cloud data to include my save data? Does save data get stored there? I don't even know. A whole bunch of questions there. But I still think having a duplicate of the SD card I have now would probably be convenient when it comes to re-downloading the ROMs in entirety. But it's not necessary yet. It will become absolutely necessary when they're not allowing you to, when they no longer support it. Right now, it's more like if I go camping, maybe I want to have a backup SD card so that when I go camping, if the SD card goes bad, I still have games, that stuff like that. So let's move on. And yeah, so actually you were saying, yeah, DX hack ROMs. So DX hack ROMs for Kirby, that's cool. Kirby DX, like the one for Game Boy, Kirby DX. I had Metroid DX was dope. I love Metroid DX. I like the fishing part where you go fishing in Metroid DX. Zelda DX. I'm sorry, I'm mixing up Metroid DX. Zelda DX for Game Boy Color, which I think Zelda DX was interesting. It was one of those ROMs, cartridges that was designed to work on a regular Game Boy, but if you pop it into a Game Boy Color, you had a proper color game. I believe that was the point of the DX titles. Whereas my Super Mario for Game Boy, my Super Mario, is it even called Mario DX? Deluxe. This is not really Mario Deluxe. DX. It's Mario Deluxe. So I guess there might be a distinction between Zelda DX and Mario Deluxe. Mainly that Zelda DX came in a somewhat normal cartridge that fits in a Game Boy. Had that different shape. Whereas Mario Deluxe, obviously, you have the bumpy cartridge. This is only compatible with the Game Boy Color, basically. And whatever other, subsequent models support Game Boy Color cartridges. There's it's not like Zelda DX where you get that backwards compatibility here where it would work in a Game Boy Pocket, which this one needs a new screen. At some point, I'm gonna have to do the I tried getting a regular display for the Game Boy Pocket, but it looks like I'm gonna have to buy one of the fancier IPS displays, which I didn't want to do because they eat up a lot of battery power, but no big deal. I can, you know, mod it to run on my rechargeables and stuff like that. I would still stick with AAA batteries. So getting back here, let's see what else I'll have to say. Yeah, Metroid is one of the games I need to play from the beginning one day. Yeah, you do. You really do. I recommend it. You know, I took half of my childhood to beat that game. But these days it's easier. Some people beat it without the maps, but I'd say the Nintendo Power maps are what got me along, you know, more successfully. Otherwise, I'm walking in circles. I'm, you know, going up the shaft, jumping on the little platforms, going left, going right, and like it's just like you're hopping from platform to platform, dunk, 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 while it's playing that music, and it's, you know, it's just like. Yeah, you're going in circles, you find a wall, you can't pass this door, it's making a clink, clink. You gotta go back, find the missiles, get lost again. So maps are nice. You could maybe, you know, if you want to challenge yourself, make your own maps, but why would you reinvent the wheel if someone made maps already? And that's the cool thing about like the Nintendo Power issue is like, okay, it's a side scroller. Making maps for a side scroller makes sense. You know, it's like just a bunch of screenshots that connect together basically. Oh yeah, so same thing, you know, and that's why having a modded 3DS is nice. Like actually, like, so I bought a 3DS, and it came. In fact, I plugged my 3DS into a charger earlier today so I could play Zelda Ocarina. He's like, I don't play Ocarina on any other device right now because I want to play it in 3D. But jokes aside, yeah, I got Ocarina on my 3DS. That's, I think, when I bought my 3DS, I actually paid for Star Fox. And then it turned around and still ended up using the modded device because it's a modded device, you know. And I have a copy of Star Fox Command floating around somewhere. That was an interesting one. I wish I could still play people online with that game. Star Fox Command is sort of like a real-time strategy, but it's got dogfighting modes. And I remember you go and you pop into that game at nighttime, and you'd be playing people in Japan. You know, their names wouldn't be, you know, their names would be written in kanji. And it's like, it felt like you were fighting freaking the Red Baron, you know, Manfred von Richthofen. It was like, they were super maneuverable, and you just felt like if you could shoot down a guy with a Japanese name, like you felt good. You felt like, man, it was a challenge. Like, you got your ass handed to you a lot. But honestly, like, it was like, I felt honored to get my ass handed to me by like a Japanese kid, because like, Japanese gamers can be overachievers sometimes, you know? So, I mean, that's an honest challenge. It's not like the game is made too hard. It's like, I know I'm playing a human being who is, you know, challenged. And I had fun doing that. It was weird, though, playing, you know, with the pen as your analog stick. It's like, yeah, you had like a lot of range of motion compared to an analog stick. It doesn't, you know, wear out the mechanisms the same way, but it's a pen as an analog stick. It's just a weird way to go there, you know. And 3DS was an improvement because you had, you know, that PSP styled analog stick thing going on there. Let's see, they have an upgraded version of Zelda DX. That's cool. Or is that Kirby? Because I check anything out, you know. I like upgraded things. I like that someone made Breath of the Wild in the style of the original Zelda. That's like a hilarious little you know, thing. I think that's not really a mod, that's just from the ground up. So that's an interesting question. Generally the on brands are ideal, right? You know, be it SanDisk, Samsung, and what is it, PNY Lexar. But you can't trust anyone, but generally I do trust them more. Whereas like recently I bought, what the hell did I buy? Did I return? I hope I returned a piece of shit. I bought some piece of shit SD card recently. What the hell did it was really cheap. 500 gig was it? And there was something afoot about it when I formatted it. And it's sort of like time a friend paid $10 for a 128 gig SD card like 7 years ago, back when that was not at all a $10 thing. And basically Windows would report 128 gigs. You'd go to format it and you get an error because it was essentially, there's a way to like mess with an SD card to make it report more capacity than it has, but of course it just means that when it tries to write more blocks of data, the data falls off. So yeah, Lexar, I'd say, you know, the main brands are usually fine. SanDisk, Samsung, Lexar, PNY, and I think just like having like more than one brand to choose from allows you to ensure there's enough like opportunity for you to chase the sales, to chase better prices. Because if you maintain too much brand loyalty, two things happens. One, you're stuck with whatever prices are available there, and two, you'll eventually get disappointed with brand loyalty. You know, I have a stack of hard drives here, and years ago I would go through phases. I'd be like, oh yeah, I prefer Seagate, because I was like, oh, I dropped the Western. He's like, was it? My logic used to be that, oh, I don't like Western Digital because one time I dropped the Western Digital drive on the floor and it stopped working right away. But in comparison, I dropped a Seagate drive on the floor multiple times and it kept working for years after that. Therefore, Seagate must be better. But that was a very, like, you know, subjective, you know, opinion. It's like there were a lot of factors there. I dropped Western Digital drives that were older, and Seagate drives that I dropped on the floor were newer. So, you know, different build, you know, methods years apart. So, you know, there's that. And let's see here. So yeah, that was the question. Someone mentioned this, and he says, you know, what are those? And he goes, oh, I downloaded ROM. I don't know what kind. I also bought a 3DS on a virtual store. Anyway, bought it on a 3DS in the virtual store. So he mentioned that these mods are like, you know, our friend Chatham, are basically like the, you know, Kirby DX hacked ROM, or the DX hack ROMs for Kirby. It's like an upgraded version made by fans. It has color, bug fixes, and better sound sometimes. And so yeah, back to the SD cards. That's my answer. Just diversify a little bit, but keep it within the brand names unless you get stunning reviews. You know, if you see an off-brand that's got stunning reviews, by all means. And the basic research, like the Steam Deck, I think only supports A1 type card, so you don't need to get a better SD card than an A1, let's say, or whatever it is, like, you know, the class. The big trick is also like the different classes. Some of them are more read optimized, others have faster write rates. So sometimes you may want an SD card that is faster at writing data, because if you're recording high resolution 60 frames a rate at 4K, let's say, or even 1080p, you're gonna need a fast write rate. But sometimes you like want to strike that balance, because you're saying, oh, but I need something that I can plug my digital camera into my computer and download it quickly. Because when I plug my phone into the computer, depending on what SD card it's using, yeah, that could be kind of slow. But you know, we have different ways of dealing with that. Some people synchronize to the cloud. I upload it via secure FTP while it's plugged into a charger or when I'm at work. So I don't care if it's a little slow, you know, because the internet is still going to be slower than my SD card. But yeah, getting a good external drive, that's an interesting topic. Well, not interesting, but it's good to talk about. Yeah, and Gap After Dark is saying, I need a good external backup drive. I have a Western Digital hard drive, and it served me well. It still works. It's a 3 terabyte. Yeah, and it's good to, like, you know, when you're relying on external drives, Gap, and everyone else, it's good to like have other drives lined up to migrate your data onto, because for years on end, how I would manage my data is I would have it on external hard drives, and as an external hard drive is either starting to, it is not external obviously, but every external hard drive has an internal hard drive in it. That's just how that works. You know, it's like essentially there's some, like, you know, they go inside an enclosure. The enclosure has a you know, a thingamajig that converts, you know, whatever connector the hard drive has into USB, and that's how they all work. Some of the external hard drives, obviously they come in the laptop form factor. Some external hard drives will actually have, instead of a serial ATA port on them, they'll have a USB port directly on the logic board, and that's how they're able to miniaturize them. I found that out because what I used to do is I used to buy external hard drives of the small size, crack them open just so I can remove the internal hard drive, and that was sometimes a way I could find, if I could find an external hard drive on sale, I can get a good price on an internal drive. Of course, it would void the warranty, but sometimes I was fine with that. So anyway, you know, chase the reviews. Make sure you just identify any glaring issues, you know, like if there's a known issue about a certain product line or brand. When it comes to internal drives, it's a little easier to shop because you get a little more granular detail. For example, a lot of people using, like, you know, hard drives in RAID arrays. You know, a lot of people who buy a lot of internal drives are combining them into what we call a RAID array. And in RAID, essentially, you'll have, let's say, 2 4 terabyte drives. In fact, I have 4 8 terabyte drives in this computer. And these 4 8 terabyte drives work together to give me a cumulative capacity of some shy of 16 terabyte. Obviously, it's not really 16 terabytes, but You can see here, if we go here, it's 14.5 terabytes. You know, when you format any drive, you can get less than the total capacity. And if we go into, you know, disk management or computer management, which brings us to disk management, we'll see that we have, it says, well, I labeled it array 10 array, but, whoops. It says down here, in fact, Windows doesn't really know what it's looking at. Windows thinks it's looking at basically a normal drive, because I didn't use Windows to combine the drives. The BIOS settings, there's basically a feature when you turn on the computer, press F11 or whatever key. It'll tell you, like, when you turn on your computer, press F11 to enter the setup utility, or press delete. And in the BIOS utility, there was a setting where you basically say, hey, take these 4 hard drives and combine them into a group. And so in RAID, let's say you do 2 hard drives combined, just 2 hard drives combined to 1. So you could either have 2 8-terabyte drives combined to make 16 terabytes, but that doesn't give you any fault tolerance. Or you can have them in a mirror. And when you put a mirror of hard drives together inside a computer, then whatever is written to one drive is automatically written to the other drive. The idea being that if this drive fails, the other drive still has data on it, and the idea is that you would then take another drive, replace the broken drive. It would take whatever's written to the remaining drive, copy it to the new replacement, and then now if either the replacement or the existing drive were to fail, you would still have data on the remaining drive. Years ago, people would say, oh, but that's pointless. What if you have a lightning strike? A power surge would fry everything in your computer. Reality is, it wouldn't necessarily fry everything in your computer, but it's true that in a consumer PC, there's like less potential benefit there. But you know, that's like just getting into the weeds. Bottom line is, why am I bringing this shit up? Well, when shopping for internal hard drives, there was a little controversy over this thing called shingled magnetic recording versus, let's see here. It had this weird, like, SMR hard drive, SMR versus CMR. Okay, here we are. So basically, CMR versus SMR. Conventional magnetic recording hard drives store data on individual tracks. Shingled magnetic recording store data in overlapping tracks. So basically, it's like this weird situation where, like, instead of everything being in like neat little blocks that are completely separate, it's sort of like stacking like shingles on a house. And there's a way that can magnetically read the data and differentiate between different data, but it causes weird penalties when it comes to, like, I forget, reading and writing. There is an issue there. Like, there's a whole bunch of nerd, you know, ology on that. And so basically it says the conventional magnetic recording is better for use in gaming and network attached storage. And since people who are using multiple hard drives in a RAID array are using it in network attached storage, then they don't want SMR. Problem was, the controversy was the companies were not reporting that the drives were SMR. They were just kind of like not reporting it. So people were buying a hard drive that was labeled a Western Digital red label, and it said, this is a NAS drive. And it's like, oh, red label, that means it's optimal for use in a NAS situation. But of course, the reality was, if it's an SMR drive, which it was not optimal. And so, of course, there was some controversy. They had to kind of fess up. People were publishing lists saying, here's, you know, the list of drives that, you know, you're getting janked on, and so on and so forth. Yo, yeah, I wish your mom didn't give away your Game Boy Color either. That's why you gotta put your shit on lockdown, son. No, I'm kidding. I mean, somebody's like, yeah, we gotta learn to let go of things, right? I mean, I've sold and given away things that I sometimes wish I didn't, but generally, I hoard everything. It was good to see you, Whooper Trooper. If you're still here, catch you later. If you're not still here, it was still good talking to Whooper Trooper. Everyone check out Whooper Trooper's YouTube channel, which I will go to his channel right now so that I can produce a link to Whooper Trooper's YouTube channel. And that is our friend, Whooper Trooper. Man, I gotta get some moderators here. Check out Whooper. Now, if anybody wants to be a mod, this doesn't really mean any obligation. It just means you get a wrench and you can do stuff. I mean, if anybody does not want moderation option capability, let me know. Yeah, it looks like I gotta go into some menu to make people mods, but I would happily make anybody here a mod. Like, you know, just like you know, if somebody starts like saying something really sketchy and racist, like they start going like "Hail to the Fuhrer" and, you know, posting links to like the Stormfront or something like that. I mean, I'm not anti-free speech, just I don't want to get my channel in trouble. Or, you know, whatever it was, like, you know, generally speaking, if someone's like really harassing someone, they're like, hey, here's Gap's address here, guys. Here's Ron's address. Here's Whooper's address. Come beat this guy up. You know, you know, it's good to have mods, I guess, right? And I haven't had any problems, or mainly the sex people, right? You know, when you get those links and someone's like, hey, check out this porn site, you know, yeah. So, like, if anyone does not want to be moderated, become a moderator, does not want a wrench, let me know so I won't make you a wrench. But I'll probably just pick some people from this chat today at random and make them mods, so that at some point when any one of you tune in, does, you know, at any given time, at least somebody who inadvertently tunes in is a mod. You know, that's kind of where I'm going with that. But yeah, so, you know, we bid adieu to our friend Whooper Trooper. My return stream? I don't know. Beating the Japanese in fighting games especially feels like an achievement. It sure does. My pleasure. Word. As we all should. And I should be subscribed to you. Let me check if I'm subscribed to you. Yes, I am. And I even have... Oh, yeah. You have the Retroid Pocket. Yeah, I remember commenting on that. That's cool. And I remember you picked up a replacement device, I believe. In fact, you mentioned it here because I was bragging about my device. You were saying it got dropped to L1. That's interesting how on your Retroid Pocket the L1 and left D-pad don't work somehow. It might be that they're connected to a little, what we call a flex cable. And so if you get adventurous, you know, get a little screwdriver, pop open the Retroid Pocket, and, you know, just see if there's any flex cables in there that are loose. And if we don't know what a flex cable is, I gotta get like a second keyboard that I can move around. I used to have one of those, what do you call it? Those, laser keyboards. I returned it because it sucked. But it was a cool concept. Yeah, so anyway, you know, sometimes you have these like flex cables. They sort of connect to a logic board or a component like this. You see it's like basically got some golden contacts on the end. It connects to a PCB, which is a printed circuit board, like in this picture here. And so sometimes like what we do is like we unlock this plastic thing, which when it in the up position, it unlocks. In the down position, oh, that's a very weird way for that to load. Yeah, it's a very weird website. You get the idea of those. So basically that's a type of cable. Usually they're tiny and they're short. They don't come in, you know, one size, but you see like how they inherently designed for awkward shapes. Like sometimes like in laptop screens, like they'll wrap around a bar. Oh, that doesn't look like a flex cable. I'm not sure what the hell that is. They come in many varieties, and essentially, you know, any small electronic device where you have a trigger button, L1, R1 button, that sometimes necessitates like a cable that can flex and loop around. It'd be a little skinnier than this, but just some ideas of what could be sensitive. And sometimes it's just a matter of reconnecting them. They come in different forms. Like this type would be very unlikely to fall out. But yeah, just some FYI type info. Like you see, they got exotic shapes, 1 in, 2 out, you know, and some of them are more prone to issues than others. But that's the gist of that. Ew. Sorry, these Chinese AliExpress, like, he's got this wrinkled hand over here. And, like, take this wrinkled ass hand and make it look like this. I'm just like, ew, it looks like the Crypt Keeper, yo. It's not nice, but it does look like the Crypt Keeper. Okay, hey, I closed my window just now. Whoops. Let's reopen that window. I need my YouTube window back. Yeah. Alright, whatever. We don't need the YouTube window. As long as I got the chat window, right? Yeah, I've ordered from AliExpress. They're pretty good. I mean, you know, I have no problem with them. Like, essentially, it's like Alibaba, right? Alibaba is like when you want to order like 1 million of something. And AliExpress is sort of like, I think, when you don't want to order a quantity of 100 of something. And, you know, prices aren't bad. if you don't mind ordering from, you know, the deep country. My coworker, he like discovered Temu, and I'm just like, yeah, that's cool, but you know, and he discovered a store, I think Five Below, near our job, and I'm like, well, I don't really like walking on my lunch break. I like to go and take a nap at work on my lunch break, but you know, so it's not really worth my time to go to Five Below. He's always like going, oh, you know, what is China known for? Cheap goods that are built like shit. So like, why are you in love with fucking Five Below? But that's okay, you know, just funny. So anyway, yeah, they are an issue. They haven't been an issue lately for me, but it's a thing. That's interesting. I've been looking at people got the Stream Element spot. They got you know, all of that stuff, you know, like and I haven't tried those out yet. I keep things super simple, like whoops. See, that's how simple I keep things. Like right now, like whatever camera I'm on, like, so essentially this is like the most obscenely simple way to go about sharing the chat. Like I downloaded a browser extension, basically like a Google Chrome add-on, which you could just, you know, search up, let's say, and essentially I have to open up the chat in a pop-out window, which, you know, you click on a little 3-dot button, it opens up the chat in a separate window, and then you tell OBS to share to display a thingamajig. So I'm gonna copy this because I already did it, and I'm gonna go back to this monitor here. We paste it in here, paste. So over here, this is the whoops. And in fact, I want to paste it as a reference. Yeah, so basically this thing, but every time I reload the chat, I have to go here and use this pull down menu to tell it which chat window I'm using. But as long as it knows which pop out chat window it's reading from, what we did was we applied a filter. We right click on it, we click on filters, and we use the color key. We actually add a color key to it, which is sort of like chroma key, and we just tell it to key into the color black. And the instant we do that, it takes the back of the window, like you saw how this window is black in the background, it's actually got black and off gray. So what the color key does is it tunes into this color black over here and it filters it out, and that's how it becomes transparent. And then, so every time I restart this, I sometimes have to resize the window or resize this bounding box here. So, you know, in OBS, you can move this around with your mouse pointer. So, whoops. Oh, what the hell did I just do? Oh God. Okay. Yeah, and you can resize this, but what you do is if you hold down your Alt key on your keyboard, which my hand is on the keyboard right now, if you hold down the Alt key, you can crop. See, like now you can see the rest of the window, and then I can hide it. So that's how I crop it basically. And then if I want to make it wider, yeah, I can crop it, uncrop it widely, but essentially to make the text wider and narrower, all I do is I just make the window narrower and wider. And so before the text was getting all bunched up, it was because this window was significantly narrower. So if I go like this, and we could even probably, whoops, let's go and we can actually add, because we didn't add this yet, right? So there's the chat window. There it is, see? So when I shrink this window here, so I try to keep certain things simple, and it's like, I asked a couple of friends, including Magic Tech Mags, how do they get the VTuber thing working? Now, it's not really a VTuber, but they got like a cool animated copy of themselves in the corner, so when they're playing games, they can, like, you know, have like a little cartoon, you know, character there, and then when they talk, it'll glow or jump up a little bit. They got different modes. Mr. Tickle Trunk has one that looks like a South Park character from Canada, basically. Like, it's got the head that goes like that. Turns out that you gotta have like a Discord server, from what I understand, and it's linked through a voice channel on that Discord server. So essentially, I didn't want to create a Discord server, but I might create a Discord server for that sole purpose. I'm perfectly happy using other people's Discord servers to exchange communications and stuff like that. I don't think we need more Discord servers. I'm not really trying to manage one. I'm not really trying to, like, you know, moderate one. Not trying to do any of that. Not at this stage here, but I could see some uses for it. Like, some people like use it so they can have voices during a YouTube stream, which is cool. So yeah, you know, there's that. Yeah, Five Below, all the stuff there is from the deep country. And thank you. I'm glad I can, you know, share useful knowledge with both you guys, you know, Chad and Gap. Oh yeah, sometimes yeah, it takes a little finagling. Like I had a weird situation when I'm playing N64 or in the room where I have my plasma TV. I sometimes prefer playing games because the plasma TV has a beautiful picture. I did like a reaction stream to Macross 7. Still trying to explore that. I want to find a way to do reaction streams to stuff that would normally be copyrighted, but you know, I mean, realistically, the audio is going to always trigger it unless I do it on a different platform, which I might experiment on that. I might just say, okay, let's do it on a different platform and fire up a YouTube stream where like maybe the image is blurry and I tell people go to Rumble for the live, you know, the actual content, you know, but it's like, I don't know how, you know, like it's YouTube, it's easy. People are already using it, you know? But I do, in fact, I do have it set up where I can stream to both platforms. Only thing is when I end a stream, I have to be careful because if I end a stream too quickly, the Rumble side will usually like get clipped. I'll be in the middle of a sentence. So when I say goodbye, everyone, end the stream, it'll just kind of like cut off like that, you know? And my Rumble address is some variation of a DJ Ronnie G, but I will check right now because I want to find out who I am. Who am I? Who am I on Rumble? I am apparently Iron Man. No, I'm kidding. We do have a Mexican Iron Man in the community though, as you know. And how do they do URLs in Rumble? Do they do the @ symbol routine? Let's try the @ symbol. I still got a turtle walking around on the floor right now. Oh my god, there's an episode of Reality Based with DJ Ronnie G on it. I'm gonna have to comment on that. And I got this funny picture of me. It looks like a mugshot. I love it. It looks like a mugshot. I either look serious or look like a mugshot. I'm not really sure which, but I gotta say, I really like the way that Ryan Roger Affy did his image here. You know, like he got my bike avatar. He's like, that's me in the snow during the winter of 2016, I think. You know, and it's just a beastly looking picture. I'm just standing with my goggles and, you know, a shopping bag and a lock on the top of the shopping bag wrapped around the stuff I have in there. But how do I find my YouTube channel? I'm keeping this tab open because I want to maybe add my link to the video. Say, hey Ryan, here's my link. I got 50 likes. I don't know if that's 50 likes across all my videos or people just like my account. As soon as I figure out how to find myself, I will share a link. I've done some streams on here. I'm pretty sure I've done some streams on here. Wait a second. This is the other thing about these platforms is like sometimes like I remember at one point I had a Rumble app and I had 2 accounts. It was very confusing. And like I think Rumble might be case sensitive. There was some weird shit going on. Here we are, my content. I found it. I don't think it required any trickery. I think all I had to do, I'm going to do it again to be sure. My content. There's a button that says my content on it somewhere. There we go. So if I go here, and then I go here, there we go, found it. It's user/DJ Ronnie G. Okay. So I got that right here for you, my friends. Rumble is okay. They've gotten better over the time. Hey, it was good seeing you, Gap, after dark. You have a wonderful night. Yes, it does look like, yeah, it does. It looks like a mugshot. So yeah, there we are. And you have a great weekend. Thank you for tuning in. And Gap was the only one to tune into my my Super Mario Brothers live stream, bike stream. I was on my bicycle streaming and Gap tuned in, but you guys didn't. No, I'm messing. I always joke about that. Some people gave me honest feedback. They said they just don't like the bike streams, like the ones that actually, you know, would tune in during like proactively. And it was like, okay, I joked, I acted like I was sad, but I didn't actually mind their honest feedback. But yeah, so I was streaming using this And I use this because I have another one similar to this, but it's got like an input and output, which is important because sometimes like you'll get lag when you try to play through the OBS preview, although that's not always an issue, or that doesn't always happen. But I have one that's like almost similar to like a cheap version of an external Elgato. You got your HDMI input goes into the USB, and then it's got a real-time output connector. And that real-time output is what I would plug into, believe it or not, into either my TV when I'm playing on my plasma, or in this computer's case, I would have like the output from my Elgato, the real-time pass-through output goes into my main monitor. So this monitor here has 2 HDMI inputs on it. Right now, we're obviously using the one that's hooked up to my video card, but I would just press a button back here, awkwardly enough, to switch from HDMI 1 to HDMI 2, and by doing that, I can then, you know, like play N64 in absolute real time. Like even if it appears to be in real time, if I have any doubts it's in real time in the preview window, I would just switch my input, and I could do that with, you know, any console. It's not just N64, obviously. And that's because the TV is mounted to the wall behind my tower. It's a little awkward with the way the lighting is to look at it. So that's how I cope with that. But the reason I brought this up is because when I'm using a device like this for the audio, I go into my OBS settings and like basically to get the HDMI, like in this case, okay, Elgato, it's got its own audio input basically. So that's easy. But when I'm using the USB dongles, like I have to select like a particular digital audio line in. It's like got a weird name. It's not the most intuitive name, but that's when it works. And if you don't select it, it doesn't work. It's almost like you're telling it to use a different capture device than what is, you know, what is normally selected. So that's the gist of that. But I think that about covers everything. I really want to thank everybody for tuning in. You know, we had a lot of good names here. You know, I'm going to run it through the list here, and then I'll give you a quick review on Rumble beyond what I just did. But, you know, we had Gap After Dark here. We had Mario's May Madness here. Mafia Mega Man. Gonna find that name right here. Of course, we already been here. Whooper Trooper, you know, we had him here. Good man. Let's see here. Where's my good friends here? Here we are. Had this cool dude here. This guy's a good time right here. Really, like, he's associated with another channel called Action Man Gaming, which hasn't posted a lot, but I really like the Action Man like theme. I like the motif. I like the deep voice modulator. And I always like, I don't have a problem with the normal voice. I think that's cool too. And I think, you know, you should embrace yourself, embrace your normal voice. But the Action Man voice, it's like this over the top deep voice. And he's like, hey, I'm Action Man. And it's like the most hilarious shit ever. But we're going to pop in some links there. Like I said, this man, at least on this particular channel, is more oriented towards you know, like games and stuff like that. It's a smaller channel. I'm not small, actually Action Man's a smaller channel, 64 people. This channel is you know, like got like 3,000, he's got 3.7k, yeah, 3,700. And I first subscribed last February, or during February, early this year I should say, and it was every month he's got a different name. So it's like Fantastic Ferengi Federation February. I always mix it up. It's like Fantastic Ferengi February Fantastic Fantasy Ferengi Federation February. See, he comes up with these things that challenge my ability to speak. It's great. But you know, always a pleasure. Sean Estep, great time, good guy. Like his icon reminds me of Dr. Manhattan. I gotta ask him if that's Dr. Manhattan. I might have asked him that a long time ago. And Bowen, of course, like I said, he always tunes in, or often tunes in when I'm watching the comic books coffee table of Eric O'Sullivan, and it's a good show, especially if you want to learn about you know, preservation of your comic books and stuff like that. That's a good thing to do. We had Bowen, you know, there as, you know, here as he is there every day. And that concludes the list of people. So go back to the bottom of the list. It's very weird. Every time I click on a name, the right click menu comes up. It's very, very disconcerting. Like I click on a name, I get the chat pop up, but then I get this little menu thing, and it kind of confuses me. It's like, you can't see the scroll bar. See, I see a little gray bar here, but when I click on a name, the gray bar goes away until I click. Very bizarre. So yeah, Rumble's got an improvement. You know, it's not completely It's not completely, what's the word? How do I phrase it? It's not completely, shit. The words escape me right now. It is not completely free from, censorship. They do have some censorship, but I think also a person who has been censored there will be a little more salty and more quick to mention that than somebody who has not been censored on Rumble. But like everyone's gonna have a little censorship. On the other hand, you want to go to the extreme deep end of no censorship. And I'm not saying I'm not even in favor of censorship, but like the deep end, the absolute deep end is freaking what's that thing called? BitChute. Yeah, I'm not even gonna put that on my screen right now. I might get like a screenshot that'll get me in trouble on my screen. Oh, that's what he meant by return stream. Okay, well let's put the link up to Whooper's return stream right there. And we're gonna shout that out right now. Shouting you out now. Shouting you out now. Good day. Alrighty, there we go. It's gonna okay, and this is Whooper's return stream. And I'm spelling it out exactly how he spells it out there. There we go. So, but it works. The live stream works. You create the account, you just use it to stream. The tricky thing is simulcasting the stream. So people think Restream is unique in that regard. No, if you're paying for an account on StreamYard, you could stream to both, sites. But with this one here, right now I'm using Restream. Well, I'm using YouTube Direct right now, but my only complaint is like to use Restream the way I want, I'm gonna have to pay more money if I want the 1080p streaming option, which I'm really conflicted about paying them for, because like they were gonna give me a holiday sale, and I'm not even gonna get into that doom-boggle right there, but it seems that it's still the best game in town. So I may be more inclined to pay money to StreamYard and see how their 1080p performance is before I pay more money to Restream to see what their 1080p is, because I want 1080p 60 frames a second. I want better quality for live streaming. It seems that when I'm playing a fast-paced racing game, I'm better off recording it while streaming it and then uploading the recording later if I want people to see the high quality version. But with that being said, I think we about covered that. So have fun joining Mr. Whooper Trooper's stream. He's currently doing Kirby, and I think his graphics in the bottom left corner are beautiful. Like I love his Kirby image. In fact, what is that? It looks like Kirby, but it's not. I did once try to suggest he makes this not widescreen, and it caused some problems during his stream. Like it messed it up a little bit. So he hasn't tried it since. But I'd be very curious one day to have a powwow with him to see how is he doing this? Because I'm so anal about aspect ratio. If it was up to me, this is how I'd watch it. Let me see. I'm gonna try to do a quick demonstration. There it is. Okay, so we copy this, we paste it to the top. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so obviously this is not how Whooper would fix it, but actually it could be how he would fix it if this is how he's streaming it. So if I was Whooper Trooper and this was my video window, what I would do is in OBS you hold down shift and you can shrink it manually like that to give it the correct shape. And then essentially now, instead of being widescreen, everything's right shape. Now, of course, this graphic in the bottom left corner here would then have to be wider again. But once you're resizing the video in the background, then the foreground elements would still remain the correct shape. And then the only issue remaining is what do you do with the side of the screen? What do you do with that extra real estate on the side? Well, essentially, same thing as when you're playing games on the Nintendo Switch that are formatted like this. You would put a background graphic. The Nintendo Switch, they put a faded shade or gradient color there. On here, I would probably put a Kirby themed background, or maybe even a more generic Nintendo themed background. How I do it, I'm lazy, so I just kind of wing it. But when I go into my HDMI input, I'll have to toggle whatever mode I'm in order to accommodate that. And then usually what ends up happening for me, at least, it'll look similar to my desk camera. I'll have the video game. In fact, wait, yeah, I don't know why it's not there now, but I basically have like a version of this screen where like, yeah. So essentially you're playing your game. You got maybe a view of the gamepad. The square view is, in fact, this monitor here is a old shaped monitor. So the idea is that instead of having the black bars, instead of having a themed background, I'll have me in the corner like this. So I try to make use of that real estate. I'm experimenting with different things, but that's one direction that I've been going with, mainly because it's easy for me to, you know, change it on the fly. If I needed something that, you know, was more polished looking, then yeah, I would either go with, you know, black bars or some kind of bezel. A bezel is nice, right? You know, like a nice border. So, you know, those are some of the options. This is just one of the ways, at least the primary way I currently manage that. So, you know, that's the gist of it. Ah, Mr. Boyd, you tuned in just towards the tail end, but that's okay. I'm going to bring my turtle into the mix. And, you know, in any case, Mr. Chad M, it's been a delight. Glad you tuned in. I appreciate you viewing. And, you know, of course, I don't want to hold you up. You want to check out Whooper. Whooper is streaming live right now. So I'm definitely not going to cannibalize his viewership for too long. Well, it's not really cannibalizing, but, you know, we're going to, you know, like, where did I lost the window? I got to go back to the window. Either way, I sent a message. Ah, there it is. Okay. So I'm going to say, good evening to my friend. What the heck is his name here? We got, Jake D, and, well, it's a lot of people to say hi to. Let's get back to this real quick. So bottom line is I want to say hi to Eric Boyd, which we have right over here. And, you know, of course, like we were discussing about resizing the window a couple of minutes ago when it comes to like streaming video games that are not widescreen, things that are 16:9 aspect ratio. But real quick, I want to find my Paffie. I want to find my turtle. Paffie. Paffie. I'm sorry. I had my turtle. I put it on the floor. Uh-oh. I put my turtle on the floor to flop around, and I lost her. And the funny thing is, the turtle, you ignore your turtle, and they'll start ignoring you. They'll go silent and make it impossible. They'll make it impossible for you to find them. Paffie. Ah, shit. That's not good. I gotta bring it back to a tank soon. Paffie? Turtle. Oh, Mr. Turtle. Mrs. Turtle. Miss Turtle. Ha! Ah. All right, let's take a look here. This, Paffie? Hey, I found a MacBook Pro. I use that for testing. Paffie. Oh, hey, there you are. Hey, Paffie. Oh, that's good. At least I found this. Yeah, so this is what this stream was about earlier for Eric Boyd, if you're still tuned in briefly. You know, I was just kind of showing my friend Paffie. This is my first turtle, first one I ever adopted. She's a female red-eared slider. She recently laid her eggs. I'm praying and hoping that she doesn't have any more eggs left in her body, so that, you know, we can move on to the next season, and hopefully next year we'll be better prepared to lay your eggs in a sandbox instead of in the tank. Because I know how you get uncomfortable, but, you know, you climb out of the tank looking to lay your eggs, but then you don't lay your eggs. And what happens is, like, I try to put her in a sandbox, and she tries to climb out of the sandbox. I'm like, dude, I'm putting you in a sandbox so you can lay your eggs. And so it's like kind of like, you know, just funny how that works. But I think that if I maybe had a permanent sandbox, like attached to the side of the tank where she could go basking like she normally does under the light, maybe then she'd get more comfortable about laying eggs, you know, in that sandbox instead. instead of, you know, like being a pain in the butt. And so what's weird is I put in a box full of soil. She won't lay the egg. She'll try to climb out. But then when I let her walk around in the concrete screen room, in the screen house outside in the backyard, she'll out of instinct try to be digging into the pavement, into the patio. And I'm like, dude, why are you trying to dig into the patio? Like, you know, I put you in a sandbox. Like, you know, I feel bad, but it's like, you know, I mean, like, it's just, that's the illogic. So I kind of understand, even though it's a little annoying, but that's what happens. She'll try to dig through the cement, even though she can't dig cement, right, in order to lay eggs. But then she doesn't even try to lay the eggs unless she could dig. Yet when she's in a tank, she'll eventually push out the eggs, and you'll see like evidence of broken eggs in the tank. The turtle will eat them because they don't realize it's an egg that of their own. They don't have any babies. They didn't get fertilized, right? It's like a chicken. You can't have babies unless the eggs are fertilized, but you still end up laying eggs. It's sort of like a period that happens once a year. And you know, I just make sure I up her nutrition. I give her some like calcium supplementation. I give her good food, you know, to like help her build her strength after laying eggs, because that could take a lot of energy out. Paffie was about 5 years old when I adopted her in mid 2015. So she's probably about 14 years old right now. She's definitely a teenager, early teenager maybe. I consider her a teenage average normal turtle, right? Teenage average normal turtles, teenage average normal turtles. You know, I was talking about like how I put some ointment on her head called a bag balm. It's sort of like a really thick version of petroleum jelly used for livestock. Because, you know, if water gets on it, rain gets on it, dirt gets on it, it's still pretty good stuff. But, you know, it's a face that, a lovely face. I just love that face. It's so cute. They all look kind of the same, but that's just the way their genotypes are genetically and shit. But she's a good turtle. She's probably not being annoying right now, but she's like, why am I being held up like this? But also, can the turtle be upside down? Now, some people say, oh my God, it can't breathe. Well, I mean, you do this for two reasons. You can do this as part of a routine health check. Like right now, I just found something that's stuck to a shell. So I just pulled it off. But of course they can still breathe. It's just their breathing is a little more labored. It's not the easiest breathing. That's why when the turtle is trying to scratch you, they stop when they're upside down. They are more focused on breathing slowly and stuff. But yeah, the weight of their organs are pushing down. But one of the things you might do is purposely put a turtle upside down so that they can right themselves. Now, not all species can do that, but this species can flip itself over when they accidentally flip over. Because, you know, just they'll use their neck, they'll sort of push off of their neck in order to help them get righted. And why is that important? Well, it's a routine health check. If your turtle gets flipped upside down on land and they can't right themselves, that could be a sign of a health problem. So, you know, it's a part of a routine health check sometimes. Like just flip them over once every few months, just to make sure they can do it, you know? And right now I can tell you that she can walk around, right? We can see her being feisty. We know she's got some strength. So we're pretty comfortable right now with this situation here. And that's basically it, you know, and Paffie's a pretty chill turtle. Look at that. Oh, she put the rumble link. Look at that. She can operate the computer. So that Paffie put the rumble link up just now. So yeah, that's basically that. So, you know, had her out for a little while. I'm going to bring her back downstairs. Here, go here, honey. I'll come get you in a minute. But yeah, so that's Paffie right there. My first turtle. I have three of them. I have Paffie and Squirtle sharing a 150-gallon tank, but there's a partition in the middle because Paffie was getting bitten in the tail by her stepsisters, so this helps to keep them safe. And then you know, Squirtle is, you know, she was on video I think a week or two ago. I got a video of them like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I think. And then they got a stepbrother. He lives in a completely different enclosure. He's a Russian tortoise, also known as a Horsefield tortoise, which is not really, they're not from a field of horses named after a Dr. Horsefield who like was a naturalist or some kind of scientist. Paffie is, you know, like, I'm sorry, but Londo, the Russian tortoise is named Londo. So you got Paffie and Squirtle and Londo, the Russian tortoise. And you know, his species stays small. They're a land species only. Some tortoises, like if they get flipped over, they can't really right themselves without help, and so they'll die in the sun from overheating and exhaustion if they can't get shade or water. The last thing I would add is a really important thing is if you ever have a turtle in a like smaller tank, if the water is too shallow, that could be deadly because like even though most of the time it'll be fine, what happens is if the turtle accidentally like flips over, let's say they're climbing their log and they flip over in the water, an upside down turtle in like deep water, of course, can, you know, just float and get back into the right orientation, no problem. But an upside down turtle in shallow water, it's something about, you know, just the water is sort of like, it changes the dynamics a bit, and the turtle will have a hard time flipping itself over. If it's just deep enough that they can't breathe underwater because the water is covering their breathing, and they can't right themselves because the water is just an awkward angle, they can't get a deep breath in maybe so they can get their strength up. Either way, shallow water can be deadly to a turtle like this. So, you know, just something to keep in mind. You know, small tanks sometimes are a necessity, but make sure the water isn't so shallow that the turtle can't right itself if they get stuck upside down, because that would be more deadly than being stuck upside down in deep water. Well, being upside down in deep water isn't deadly. Being stuck underwater, turtles like this species, they live underwater, but they don't breathe underwater. They don't have gills. They can just hold their breath for a really long time and sleep underwater to avoid predators. In the wintertime, their metabolism slows down, and at a certain point, they'll practically hibernate, or brumate as we call it. And when they're doing that, well, you know, their metabolism, their respiration is so low that they don't need to take in a lot of air, but it has been determined that they can take in some air, believe it or not, through their cloaca, through their butt. And that's because essentially, as long as the water is sort of getting in there, the blood vessels can absorb oxygen through the water. It's just that it's not the same rate of breathing you'd get normally through the lungs, but it's enough when you're practically in hibernation mode, when you're slowing down things a lot, when you are, you know, not moving around, when you're practically sleeping or in a deeper form of sleep. Like, you know, the point is you're not digesting food, you're not trying to climb stuff, you're not trying to swim fast, then yeah, their needs for oxygen are low enough that it's actually it's worth something. It helps to extend the time they can spend you know, in that hibernation state, I guess, because, you know, they could be hibernating under a lake covered in ice. So, you know, anything they could do to extend that period where before they have to climb out, especially if they can't break out of the ice, helps out. And of course, they can't survive being frozen solid. So, you know, I had a friend, his mom wouldn't let him keep the turtle in the house when he was a kid. So he had to keep him in a kiddie pool. But the problem was that, you know, one winter they got frozen, the pool got frozen solid, they became hockey pucks, they were dead. Some species, like 1 or 2 species, do have sort of like antifreeze in their blood, and they can come out from that. This species certainly doesn't. So, you know, just little important tidbits like that. You know, and what was the other key thing that I got out of that? Oh yeah, so in a lake, what they'll do is like they'll go to the bottom of a lake, they'll dig a little like shallow depression into the muck or the mud, bury themselves a little bit, and sleep there or hibernate, brumate there while you know, the rest of the lake freezes. And of course, the whole lake doesn't freeze solid. You know, they can't hibernate in a pond that is frozen solid. They can hibernate, they can brumate in a lake or a pond, as long as it's not completely solid. You could have like 5 feet of ice on top of them, or you could have like, you know, I've been on lakes where they've measured like 10, 12 feet of ice, but as long as there's like liquid water somewhere in that bottom area, especially near the muck, which there usually will be because the way the ground retains a certain amount of heat, sort of like how you know, certain heating systems work. Heat pumps, for example, would run a bunch of pipes into the ground. During the winter time, you can draw a little bit of heat from the ground, and during the summertime, you can actually, you know, do the opposite. You can pump your heat into the ground, and you know, essentially, you let the ground absorb the heat from the water pipes, and then use that cooled down water to keep relatively cool. You know, so it's an interesting way to use the environment and essentially it sort of goes along with like when people build or, you know, determine where the frost line is located. So that's the gist of it, and I'm glad I can, you know, share some of that knowledge today. But yeah, with that being said, before I tune out today, let me know, Eric Boyd, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. Now, but jokes aside, if you have any questions, Eric, let me know. Definitely be happy to share. And I gotta say, it's a cool avatar. It looks a bit like a bear or possibly a Sasquatch holding a girl from a 60s sci-fi movie. It's a cool picture either way. Maybe that's an alien. But yeah, I think it looks cool. And just checking out your content here. Apparently, I have not subscribed at the moment, but I see you do put out content. You do draw some artwork apparently, and that's pretty cool. A guy in a gorilla suit with a helmet, a robot monster movie. Ooh, I like robots and monsters. I like when, you know, I like the idea of combining robots and monsters. I do. And so I may have to check something out like that. Cool. Is it a truly bad? Is it like? I mean, it probably was a bad B movie. I'll take your word for it, you know. But I guess my question would be, you know, was it like a bad movie? Like, was it like so bad it was good? That's my question. It was so bad it was good. Like, I haven't watched Sharknado, but the name sort of implies so bad it was good. The Core. I would put The Core up there with so bad it was good, because I mean, like, there was certain things that like were really off about that movie that like made no sense, but it was a fun movie to watch. Of course, that movie, they actually put like, you know, a lot of special effects into it. They built that machine that can go deep into the core of the earth so they could use nukes to save the planet somehow. You know, that movie was kind of fun. They even had like the harp installation in that movie, although under a different name. That was kind of funny. Yeah, a lot of little things in that movie that were kind of, you know, like creative about it, but still kind of bad that it's so bad it was good, because of, you know, the amount of random oddball nonsense and things that like don't work in real life at all. So yeah, it could be a good time though, you know, but yeah, I've had my share of hit or miss B movies that are worth watching, B movies that I was just like, what did I just watch? So, you know, but that being said, so yeah, I am definitely going to subscribe right now. Did I subscribe? I think I already did it. Let me make sure I do. Okay, subscribe all. There we go. Oh, you published a comic book. That's great. So yeah, you know, definitely posting a link in the chat before I conclude this this stream today. I don't know if you want me to post a link to this in particular. I'll post a link to your channel for sure. Been having a weird issue with my network connection. Like, I checked my cable to my room. I got to follow it down, but like, I have good upload speed. My download speed seemed to be fine. Speed test seemed to be fine, but when I have multiple YouTube tabs open, this will happen. And I'll be forced to like essentially let it run at the lower resolution setting. And it's like crazy. Like, the stream is fine as far as I'm aware. But this is a thing that's been recurring lately. It's like now I gotta like really inspect the shit out of my cable. See if it's like that time I had a mouse get into the house and it, well, you know, like probably like until I plugged up the basement, I had a mouse or two get in and they chewed up the Ethernet cable and it kept working. But when a mouse chews up a cable enough, I mean, when you, like the Ethernet cables have 4 pairs of twisted pair, right? So 8 strands of wire in 4 pairs. And you could actually cut half of those like individual wire strands and it would still work. But at a diminished speed, it would negotiate at a lower speed. But yeah, so, you know, I see you got Robot Monster was that's literally the name of it. Oh, that's literally the name of it. Okay. Was kind of funny in a way. You can see the actor's face in the helmet when it was supposed to be blacked out. The production value was low. Yes, I guess it was so bad it was good. All right, I'm sold. I am sold. Let's just copy that. I'm going to highlight that now and put that into my notes for as soon as I'm ready to go after that today when I fire up the download or go on a streaming site like Shout Factory. I bet Shout Factory would have something like that. There we go. All right, good. I put it in my notes. Sometimes you do, But other times people will give random advice, and the way I know if I need to upgrade my RAM, well, I mean, I know, but what I mean is the way that one could figure it out is when we're looking at our desktop, you can right click on the taskbar. I mean, you can do this 5 different ways, but if I right click on my taskbar, like where the clock is, I can go to Task Manager. That's what it says, Task Manager. And it's currently on my second monitor, so I'm going to drag it here. And so basically, most people will see something like this when they open up Task Manager. You can do that by also pressing Control-Shift-Escape. That's another way to pop into this. But what I'll do is I click on the button that says More Details, and I'll go to the Performance tab. Now, I always like to change the update speed to low, but we'll keep it on normal for now. I never select high. But bottom line is what we see here is, you know, obviously most people will see something like this. But once again, I right click on it, I tell it to show me all of my CPU cores, all of my threads. Usually like, not gonna get into the weeds on that, but memory. So I have 64 gigs of RAM. I'm currently using 15 gigs of RAM, but if we jump over to my old computer, which it happens to be on right now because I'm using it for some other work. Let's connect to that remote machine in a different room and see what we get. Okay, let me just minimize this window so nobody sees the sketchy activity there. No, I'm kidding. But if I go there and I do Task Manager on that computer, so this is another computer, and essentially on this other computer we have, you know, 8-core AMD processor. We got 16 gigs of RAM, and I'm apparently using up like all of it. This is a computer that probably needs more RAM, you know, I mean, or at least I'll close some applications. I think I have Chrome open on it right now. So if we go to my other monitor, see I got some things opened, and a lot of it is you know, a couple of Google Chrome windows that have a few tabs opened on them, and an astronomy imaging processing utility that would probably eat up some RAM too. You can see I closed one of the Chrome windows and the little graph kind of dipped a little bit. Background applications, sometimes we just gotta close what's using the RAM, and that'll help things out a bit. But you know, usually like if I'm streaming on this older machine, I'll be more conscious of it. Right now it's like not my daily driver, but it's just there like if I need to, you know, control my 3D printer. A lot of times when I'm using this older computer, I'm using it to log into this computer remotely. So yeah, laugh it up. No, I'm kidding. So, you know, just a little, you know, microcosm of how, you know, we can identify that, you know, and like the Task Manager is just generally useful when you want to, you know, see, is this an accurate answer? Someone told me I really need to upgrade my RAM. I had a problem with Kerbal Space Program when I was streaming that, and it was basically like, normally the video encoding graph here has nothing to do with the 3D accelerator. So when I'm using OBS, most of the video encoding happens here, and then this part, this graph is freed up for the gaming performance for the most part, but Kerbal Space Program was actually using the video encoding part of the GPU to do some of its stuff, and gave me a very sketchy streaming experience until I switched to a CPU-based video encoder, which would be utilizing this graph. But let's see here, what else we got to see here. I'm faking it. I don't know how any of this shit works. I've been pretending for years, and I've just been really effective at it. Got me a few. Jokes aside, though, jokes aside, you know, there's definitely people who have more skill in this area. But I'd say I probably fit under the category of a power user. I'm not a very competent developer, but I can do a little bit of scripting. You know, stuff like that. And I mean, troubleshooting, tech support definitely is among my forte. And so, you know, you pick up some tricks when you're familiar with the stuff, you use it enough, you know, and a lot of stuff anybody can learn. But I can see where it takes up time. In some areas, there's like areas where the young kids, the teens might think I know less, but I've learned to just not give a shit about certain things. Like there's things, like I've learned that like if you try to keep up with the marketing terminology, you got terminology that has technical terms, and you have the marketing term. And sometimes the marketing term is like redundant and unnecessary, and you know, I'm not a brand ambassador, so I'm not gonna freaking, you know, use Intel and AMD's specific term for something when I know there's like a generic term that has been around since the 90s that just works. But you try to say that's like a kid at the Geek Squad tech support counter back when I worked there, and they might, you know, correct you, which I would have done when I was their age too. But you know, just things like that, like keeping up with the newest graphics card. I got a 2060 in here right now. I don't even have like a 4090 or a 3090. Like, I don't care. Like, I just want the game to run on a 1080p monitor, 60 frames a second. I'm not looking for a lot more than that. You know, I'm a simple man with simple needs, but sometimes I like to do more complex things. And so, you know, computer is a tool, and you know, tailor that tool for your needs. And sometimes what I do in this channel is try to, you know, share that and help others do the same. And so yeah, I do take comments. You know, if you ever want to leave a comment like asking, like, you know, a question in this realm, tech oriented or whatever, obviously most of my skill is in the PC realm. I'm not like a big Mac guy, but I do have a MacBook under my desk. I do have a MacBook Pro, an older model from like 2012, I think 2013. And you know, that's from the recycling heap. That's how I started. I picked computers from the garbage and rebuild them, repair them, cannibalize the parts. And from doing that, like, even when I was working in my retail job, people would throw computers out in the recycling heap, and I'd say, why are you throwing this out? And then I'd say, screw it, this might be against the rules, but I'm going to rebuild this. Sometimes a customer would actually let me. Sometimes a customer would say, oh, you want it? That's different. But when, you know, most of the time there is a data privacy concern there, you know, when someone's disposing of a machine. But a lot of customers had the good sense to, you know, ask us to remove their hard drive and physically hand the hard drive back to the customer when they were throwing their computer out, so that they didn't have to worry about that. And that's fine. You know, you can always replace that. I want the rest of the computer. I don't need their data. Yeah, about that. Now, but jokes aside, you know, when people stream, sometimes they'll they'll do it live stream, and someone will say, oh, I need a copy of this software, and someone like says in the chat, or they say they're part of a group verbal stream of like, I got you, man, message me afterwards, I'll hook you up. And that's all cool to be nice and helpful to your friends, but if I had a big channel, I would definitely avoid like talking about any variation of piracy or anything like that. You know, it's just like, you know, especially on a larger channel, that can knock you down in the algorithm. That could potentially have legal implications, but even if it doesn't, like, someone might say, you know, like, let's say like some person who works for like a Hollywood studio, they're like, hey, I want to, you know, get this guy to interview me because they talk about sci-fi. But then they say, oh, but this person, they talk about pirating stuff on their channel sometimes. So as a result, like companies like News Corp, 20th Century Fox, they might have like they do have like a zero tolerance policy with that. So sometimes like people who are associated with them can't associate with people and stuff like that. So it's why, you know, I definitely, like, when I opened up my remote connection, if I had let's say a torrent program running for downloads, I definitely didn't want to have that on screen. Even though it's not inherently illegal to download stuff over torrents, the reality is that when you're using torrents, usually you're using it to download movies that may be copyrighted. In my case, like, if I love a movie enough, I'll end up buying it anyway. Like, you know, got Blu-rays. I got my Turn A Gundam Disc 2 right here. I got the Galaxy Express 3.9 box set. That's a good series. I really like Galaxy Express 3.9, and enough that I bought it on Blu-ray. And yeah, you know, we try to breathe life into them. Sometimes I try to give them away. I got a friend, I got to see if they still need a computer. I'd happily mail them a computer after building one out when I have time next week to work on it. But you know, that's the beauty of it. Like, working on broken computers, you can practice, you can break them, you can burn them out. Like, years ago, like, things were like not color coded. Today, like, a lot of the connections, you can't plug a connection in backwards. You know, like if I take this broken hard drive here, for example, you can't plug it in backwards. You know, there's only one way to plug that in. I mean, you could force it in there backwards, and I've done that before when I was in a rush and fried it. But like this one here, it's like, okay, it's only going in like this. Like, it's got a little L shape there, and it isn't going in backwards. And so, in the late 90s, they started like doing more of that color coding and putting like a plastic shape in there so you can't plug something in upside down or backwards. But before that, there were certain things you could plug in backwards that would just not work, and there were other things that you plug in backwards that would start emitting smoke and going on fire. So, you know, just that's some of the stuff that you can learn. And luckily with computers, like, people throw out, they get obsolete quick enough that people are throwing them out quick enough that, like, there's always, you know, there's always a way to practice and learn with like little to no consequence. So, you know, there's that. If you have like an old computer that you know you're going to dispose of, but it still works and you want to experiment, or you want to breathe life into an old machine after buying a new one, you could, you know, sort of like, you know, do that, like take that risk. You say, well, you know what, if I breathe new life into this computer, I make it better, great. But if I do break it, well, so what? You know, I was gonna, you know, not do anything with it if I couldn't upgrade it anyway. So you know, it's like part of the calculus you might use, or, you know, logic that you might use when you want to think about when it's worth your time to mess around like that, when to mess around with technology and stuff. Earlier in this stream, we talked a little bit about flash drive reliability. Essentially, people sometimes back up all their data to like a single flash drive, and they say, oh, it's been here with me for 10 years and no problem. And it's like, well, if you had a flash drive for 10 years storing data that's not backed up anywhere else, you should at least put it on one other device. Like me personally, I would say a flash drive isn't a bad backup device if you have the data residing on your computer at all times and the data is always up to date on both devices. But flash drives are finicky. You get 10 flash drives of the same company, same brand name, and you open them up, they may not have all the same chips, they may not be tested to the same ability, you know, quality. And essentially, I put this in my drawer for like 3 years. I come back to it, I plug in a flash drive that worked 3 years ago. There's a chance the data disappears or is inaccessible. And, you know, unlike hard drives which have moving parts, data recovery on flash memory is a bit of a doom boggle. But anyway, it looks like I lost my turtle again. Paffie! Oh, come on, man. Come on, girl. But feel free to put a link to your channel if you want. In fact, if you don't mind, I'll put a link right now if I still have it. Alrighty, there we go. I got your link there so people can check out. There we go. Alrighty. No doubt, it's my pleasure. Please check out our friend Eric Boyd right here. Eric N. Boyd, the artist. And we got, you know, and you're most very welcome. And I got a turtle in my seat right now. Get out of my seat. I found a use for an Anheuser-Busch box. All right, Paffie. Here, I'll let you stand up. Here you go. You ready? All right, my friend. Paffie, buddy, I want you to say goodbye to everyone. You ready to say goodbye? Want me to give you a kiss? You want to bite my lip off? Because you try to kiss a turtle, they'll bite your lip off. I mean, sometimes they'll try to bite. Depends. You probably shouldn't kiss a snapping turtle. You definitely should not kiss an alligator snapping turtle. Snapping turtles, they'll bite, but they won't necessarily bite your finger off. A snapping turtle, you know, is generally friendlier than people expect. They don't like being bothered, but they're not like gonna bite your finger off. They might bite you, might hurt badly, but your finger will still be there. You might need some medical, you know, attention. But an alligator snapping turtle can definitely bite your finger off. And an alligator snapping turtle can grow to a large enough size that they could bite your arm off. They could bite your hand off for sure, bite your foot off. So, you know, there's that, you know. So definitely respect the alligator snapping turtles. Whereas common snapping turtles, like, you should respect them, but it's not the end of the world. So anyway, let's see here. I'm gonna bring my girl downstairs to her tank right now. So say goodbye to the young girl, to the teenage average normal turtle. And once again, thank you for tuning in. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. I've already shouted out everyone, and since I have a feisty turtle on my hands right now, I'm going to bring her back to her tank right now where she could feel safe and, you know, get ready for bed. I'm going to tuck her into bed. So, yeah, you know, that is the plan. No, thank you. Thank you for your kindness. And yeah, I hope I can make another stream before the weekend is over, because my weekend ends tomorrow. I gotta go back to work on Sunday. But that being said, you enjoy your weekend, and I sure do hope I enjoy the remainder of my weekend as well. And with that being said, thank you to everybody else who has been watching today. Please like and subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, please leave a comment. And for now, we shall end transmission. Actually, I don't know if I'm going to end transmission. I'm kind of liking this right now, having my turtle climbing here. Now, we're going to end transmission. All right, Paffie, buddy, say bye. Say bye. Yeah, let me get your hand. There you go. Good, good. Yeah, there you go. Ow, 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 ow. Say bye. Wave, wave, wave. Look, she's waving. Okay, she's not out. She's not waving. She's trying to climb here. I'm really going to end this now.